It's 10 p.m. and you're on patrol. Do you know where your trigger finger is? Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed badge cam here at Active Self-Protection. I am your host, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, Mike Williver. Today's video comes to us from the home of the Johnny Carson Studios, Burbank, California.
Today's video is brought to us by Delete Me. Delete Me can help you protect yourself from identity theft, from phishing scams, and from harassment online because of your personal opinions or any other reason. And I recommend them highly and have been using them for over a year. Delete Me automatically queries all of the online data brokers that exist and get your records removed so that you don't have to do that work yourself. I've personally noticed that having used them for a year, that the number of spam text messages, emails, and phone calls that I was getting beforehand have dramatically reduced. It has really made my quality of life better, and I am very glad to be a Delete Me subscriber. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code or go to joindeleteme.com and use code ASP at checkout for 20% off. That's joindeleteme.com/ASP, code ASP. Police have identified the van on the right here as a stolen vehicle. So you saw the cop drive by the other way. He's gonna turn around, join in the chasing down of this guy. So now we have two officers, one in the front of him and one behind him. And the guy in the front decides it's time for a felony stop. So you see the officer behind, he's gonna close in so the guy can't back up away from him. And then our officer in the front is going to come up as well. And as he jumps out of his car, let's listen into what happens.
Don't move!
24 shots fired.
Don't move! Don't move!
10D, 10D, 10D.
All right.
You heard the officer there admit that it was an ND, a negligent discharge, and it crossed right in front of the face of this perp. It was cleanup on aisle, white panel van for sure there for a minute. Our driver of the vehicle was arrested for receiving stolen property and several other crimes. You can see all about them at the news story that I've linked in the description. The news story said that they are doing an internal affairs investigation. I doubt we will ever hear from a perspective of that internal affairs investigation of what happens though, because of union rules and employee regulations. You know, I'm just going to say it out front. I'm glad he just owned his crap here.
This is one of the things we talked about previously. Look, if you mess up, no matter how bad it is, just get it out there as quickly as possible. There's no doubt. You own up to it, and we can figure stuff out.
Let's talk about it. Now, of course, Mike, when we are in a stolen car investigation, who drives around in stolen cars? Hoods. That's who. Bad people who do bad things. They do tend to be violent folk. So I love the fact that we're doing a felony stop here, and I'm 100% down with it. You know, hey, we're going to box this guy in front and back. We are going to jump out and get him in felony stop, get him out of the car without chasing him down the road. I think all this was a very good idea. However, I want to say here at the very beginning, when the shot breaks, this is a prime example of why we say never point a gun at somebody that you are not ready right now with objective, reasonable evidence to shoot. Because if this shot had been a couple of inches to the left, this guy would be dead and our officer's life would be over too.
Yeah, it would be a bad day all the way around for everybody involved. Not that long ago, within the last 6-7 years, I think it was, Supreme Court has something to say about qualified immunity when it comes to pointing guns at people who don't need guns pointed at them. And the bottom line is, if you are, first of all, you have to break more than one of the firearm safety rules, right, to accidentally shoot someone. It has to be finger on the trigger and it has to be pointed in the direction that isn't safe. If you're doing a stop like this, I know the temptation is to aim in on your bad guy, right? But we've shown a bajillion times at the range I used to work at that the difference between a low ready and an aimed in is absolute milliseconds. It doesn't make that big of a difference, and it'll keep you out of trouble like this. And we'll talk about this some more, but I love the fact that he realized his mistake, called it out, so nobody thought anything happened other than exactly what happened, which was a negligent discharge.
Yeah, just recognize, okay, fine, he could be found civilly liable and certainly will lose his qualified immunity when the family sues the department. He will lose his qualified immunity. Far more than that, that would be considered a reckless negligence in what he did. And if he shoots this guy, that would be a recklessly negligent, at least significant bodily injury, or you shoot this guy in the face and he dies. Now you've got manslaughter charges. You could be doing 20 years for this. All because we didn't recognize, hey, wait a minute, I need to use a low ready position, a challenge position. So you gotta please hear me, officers. Don't draw down and point guns at people that you're not ready to shoot right now. Use your low ready. Use your opportunities to go, okay, wait a minute, I'm gonna pull the gun out of the holster, recognize that the gun is low in front of me so that I don't have a negligent discharge that ends up costing me my future, my life, behind bars and those things. And I think where this comes from, Mike, is repeated, this idea that comes again and again and again of drawing and firing. So the officer here draws and the gun goes off because his safety comes off. I think he's using a 2011 style pistol here. Safety comes off, finger on trigger, very light, 4-pound, 4.5-pound trigger probably. And the shot just breaks because he puts a little too much pressure on it. Negligent discharge here. And instead, if you're working on a draw to challenge, then your gun comes out, finger stays high and at home rather than at work on the trigger, and you don't end up having these challenges. You've got to ingrain a draw to a challenge, not just a draw to a shot.
Couldn't agree anymore. Listen, the training department of your agency isn't having you doing any decision-making shooting, where not part of your qual, but advanced firearms training exercise where you are having a target face you that may or may not be a threat, and you have to draw and challenge, and a lot of the time not pull the trigger. That's critical. If you're not doing that training, make some noise and make sure you start doing that training. One more note on the positioning. I do like, by the way, putting a cruiser in front of the bad guy's vehicle and one behind so tight that it's very hard for him to escape and take everybody on a wild chase and endanger everyone's lives in the whole community. If you're going to be in the front of one of these deals and you're pinning the car in front, do everyone a favor. Don't stay in front. You shouldn't be standing there where the bad guy can see you. Get out of the way. Leave the car where it is. It'll do its job by itself just fine. But try to flank, strafe, whatever the kids are saying these days. But get around to the side or to the back and join your partner so you can do a proper felony stop. Because at this point, if you stay here in this position, invariably you're going to be pointing guns at each other more or less between the officers or deputies in the back of the vehicle and in the front. So get out of that zone. You're in a bad spot. Move to where the bad guy can't see you and continue your felony stop from there. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, when you've got front and back here and everybody jumps out with guns, you have a Taliban wedding ceremony is what you've got right there. And that's not what you want at all. I think the big thing here is remember, draw to challenge, draw to a low ready, draw finger high and on the slide, high and at home. So then that way it's not just ingrained when I'm making decisions. Now, if you see, nope, that guy's got a gun in his hand, I got to shoot him right now. Okay, draw and fire one. But I will recognize this. His reaction here, you saw him kind of pull the gun down to his side and say, oh, poop, right? We'll keep it there. And that tells me that this was unintentional. Now, I know plenty of us are gonna just pile on this guy. Anyone can have a negligent discharge. Anyone can make a mistake with that. So I'm not saying that he's subhuman or he's a piece of crap or his training is terrible or any of those things. But boy, did he get lucky here that the most he's probably going to get is a significant letter of reprimand in his record. And I'm super glad he did cop to this, Mike, because this excited utterance of "oh poop" tells me that it was unintentional what he did.
Yeah, the fact that he said that is rather telling. Also, I love the fact that he called it out. That was an ND for so many reasons. First of all, any thought you might have later on of, oh, let me see if I can, work my way out of this or make up a story or whatever is out the window. You've already said it. It's on tape. Good. We're done with that now. We're not going to try any silly cover-up stuff. But almost as importantly as that is to let the other officers around you know that you didn't shoot for a reason. I think training is a big issue here. And I think this department should probably look inward a little bit and make sure they're giving their officers the proper training and make sure they're hammering home the importance of keeping your trigger finger where it belongs until it needs to go to work on the trigger. Because if he's not aiming in on the bad guy and he's not having his trigger finger what shouldn't be, none of this happens, right? So I think going back to training is critical, not just for this guy, but maybe everyone needs to do a little bit more decision-making on the range rather than just straight qualification.
I adore that he actually just owned his trash, right? This is what integrity is. This is the standard that all law enforcement officers should strive for and hold themselves to. And frankly, for all private citizens too, you make a mistake, you own the mistake. You say that, yep, that was a negligent discharge. I love that he told the other officers it was, because that cools it down a little bit. Otherwise, they're looking for what was your justification for shooting, and I might need to shoot someone too. Him saying, nope, it was an ND, tells everyone, this wasn't a deadly force situation. Take it down a notch. We're going to be okay. And then I'll deal with the consequences later. That is what a person of integrity does. They make mistakes. We all do. Humanity is humanity. We're humans. We're not robots. We will make mistakes. But when we do, we own them. We take the beatings that come from them, and we move forward. I hope that his training department loops this all the way back and says, man, we need to change some training here to make sure that we're doing decision-making training. And I hope even those who aren't in his department, all of our training departments look at this and say, hey, we need to make sure we've got decisional training and draw and challenge training. And we've got to use that low ready position so that we don't have stuff like this happen where lives are needlessly endangered. Let's use that training so that next time we can better cover our ass.